points. Slides will be available, so please drop your email addresses into the chat. Any links that we go to, again, they will also be included in the email that we send out. And just a quick thank you to Barbara and the MSD UK team for working with us to bring you this series over the last 4 weeks. And thank you to everyone who has stayed with us for the 4 weeks as well. So over to you now, Richard.
Great. Hi. Thanks again, both. I can't say how much I want to thank MSD UK for helping us organise this. And Prina and Barbara and everybody else behind the scenes who've been working on it. This is the last of our 4 sessions on Thursdays in October about bidding and funding to grow your business. So hopefully you're in the right one. That's what we'll be talking about today. Just as a quick recap for those of you who were on the previous sessions and also people who've just joined us this last one today. On the first primer session, we explained the whole of the bidding life cycle, so all the activities and skills that you require to put together a compelling bid or a funding application. I'm hoping on that first one, if you were here with us, you've got a good idea of what's involved, so you can decide whether bidding and funding is a suitable way for you to go forward to grow your business. And the second one, session 2, covered the search for opportunities. Where do we find bid opportunities and indeed funding pots? And also we talked about the information that you'll need to pull together about your business to respond, so you know how to get started. And then last week, we looked at plain English writing skills, those skills that we need to write effective responses that evaluators like to read and like to score highly. And then in this last session today, we're going to look at reviewing our work, editing our work as well and sharing it with other people, how we submit our bid or funding application, and what to do afterwards. And we'll have some time today to answer some of the questions about bidding and funding applications that we may not have covered during the sessions. Okay, before we get completely into it, this is the obligatory bit about us so that you know you're in safe hands. We're RTFQ. You saw earlier on Marjorie, Marjorie McPherson, who's an APMP accredited proposal practitioner. APMP is our industry association. It's the Association of Proposal Management Professionals. Worth having a look at their website. There's some interesting stuff there. And I'm Richard Morland. I'm an English graduate from UCL, and I've been an editor for the past 30 years ago with The Economist, and then as a freelance, and then with RTFQ. We work with a large range of companies, large and small, including SMEs and social enterprises, and we're really, really pleased to be supporting MSD UK members. Among them, DeGraft Management, if Lena's out there, One Building Solution, that's Leary, Gonzalez, Digital First Innovations, Peter Merrifield. And we're talking to more of you as well, Engage Transform, Yemi, if you're there, Scholar Insurance, and NS Innovations, Sherrock, and Hi Cavan as well. Again, talking to you all to help you get what you want from bidding and funding applications. Anyway, enough about us. Let's get going on our last session, which is editing, reviewing, and quality assurance. So the first thing to consider is, when do reviews happen in the bids process? Because traditionally, lots of people talking about when they're reviewing the bid, it's this end of matters here. We've got the content, we're looking towards sign off and the end game. So it's all about reading and text editing and making it relevant, checking the accuracy of everything, all the documents have been signed off and ready to upload. But I have to say, there's a whole host of reviewing that needs to go on well before all that stuff at the end to make sure we submit the best possible bid. As you can see, there's a lot of elements, even before the tender documents here are issued, that we need to be thinking about. So let's have a quick walk through all that and see what reviewing needs to be done. So first of all, and you probably do this in your business reasonably regularly, there's a market review, even before we've seen bid documents or decided to source or apply for an opportunity. I imagine you or your directors or your business development people are regularly reviewing your business products or services and your objectives and opportunities within your industry or market segment. Certainly when you're thinking about bidding and thinking about it in funding applications as well, you need to be thinking about what you're offering and how it's positioned in your marketplace, because that's the starting point. considering new business or grant funding. So that's going on all the time. And then as you narrow down your opportunities and what you want to go for, you want to be anticipating your competitors' approach, what solutions and strategies they might have. Desktop research can get you reasonably far down the track, but any intelligence you can get from, for example, their former employees or consultants, or even through the supply chain who might work with your competitors, will help you understand how your competitors position their business for bidding. Now, again, a formal review now and again is not a bad idea, because the outputs from the competitor review will feed directly into how you ghost the competition, if you remember that from last week. Ghosting is subtly highlighting weaknesses in their solutions or position so you can neutralize their strengths. Now, you might need some help here from people in your business development, or maybe certain functions like product development or solution design. And as I said, as well as any consultants or former employees, or maybe even retired staff who've got experience with your competitors. But when you sit down and do this competitor review, you need to be thinking about what their strengths and weaknesses will be, what their likely strategy will be for a bid, how we stack up on the big issues that matter to the client against competitors. What are those weaknesses that they have that we can ghost? Does the client have a preference? Do they always go to the same players in the marketplace? How do we break in that way? How do we unseat the incumbent if they've got a long-term relationship? And of course, if we're the incumbent, how do we keep hold of our spot? How do we defend our spot? So competitor review really gives you an idea of where you are. It will inform your bid, no bid position as well, because frankly, if you know that there's competitors out there that are absolutely the strongest and you won't be able to compete against them, then you'll save yourself a lot of time and money if you just back off that one and look for other opportunities. So, talking of opportunities, now we're starting to have a good old search. Remember in session 2, we're fully in search mode and we're looking for those opportunities. We need to be triaging each opportunity. Even after we've expressed an interest, we'll still want to be thinking about whether this tender or funding application fits what we're all about, or whether we can adjust ourselves, if you like, to fit the requirements of the tender without stretching ourselves and our capabilities too much. We do need to know this before we make our first bid, no bid decision. So for this opportunity review, you'll need people in the room who know the prospective client, who know your products and service offer well, and your capabilities, of course, and know what your competitors are about. So in this meeting, you review your potential offer and your chances of winning to save yourself a lot of wasted time if the fit isn't right. And you're asking yourself here, can we satisfy the customer's needs and requirements? Can we differentiate ourselves and offer something better than the competitors? Can we deliver this opportunity if we win it? Can we afford to do this? Can we fix any of those shortcomings so that we can basically convince the client that we're better than everybody else? And critically, in an opportunity review, can we actually do this and respond in time? As we said in the second session, the lead time from document issue through to bid is short these days. So if we haven't done that preparation and all these reviews in advance of the documents dropping here, then we're going to be a little bit on the hop and chasing the opportunity and sucking in resources in our business that we may not always have for an issue, for an opportunity that maybe isn't nailed on for us. So make sure you've got the resources before you dive in and respond to an application. So all that reviewing goes on before the tender or funding documents are actually issued. Now we've got to D-Day. Documents have landed and we're about to get busy on potentially a 25 or 30-day cycle of bid activity. I thought this might be a good time just to take an aside and have a look at what a 30-day schedule might look like and what you'd be doing in those 4 weeks. So let you have a quick study of that for a second. Okay, so let's assume the documents have landed on Tuesday. Clients always promise that they'll come out on a Friday or Monday, but usually they run a day late. So let's assume Tuesday. The bid documents are released. First activity obviously is read. Your bid managers and senior people will start getting under the skin of what's in those documents. And the output from that will be the deliverables matrix. You remember that? Who's doing what, where, when, who's picking up which questions, and the bid requirements summary. What typeface do they want it in? When do they want it delivered by? And all those other bid rules. We prepare those so that everyone knows who's doing what, when, and how. So there's your first week gone already. Week 2, we think about building these response templates and doing some answer planning. Remember from our second session again. We maybe even get a start on writing some easy win answers. Easy wins might be refining the CVs to suit the opportunity, or completing remember the standard selection questionnaire that goes in most public sector bids anyway now. We can get that one quickly out of the way if we haven't done it before. So that's the end of week 2. Week 3, we're deep into the writing now. And we're writing with a view to a content review here towards the end of the week, maybe. So we can get first sight of how we're shaping up in terms of our answers and what needs to be done then. We're also going to be reviewing our bid price or our funding requirement towards the end of that week to make sure we've got it right. Oh, click back. Just gone somewhere. Week 4, sorry about that. Week 4, we'll be addressing the comments from the content review and fixing our documents ready for a final document review towards the middle or end of the week. And that'll be a reasonably senior review, ready for a sign-off of the price and the documents. And then we'll leave ourselves a little bit of time at the end for what we call a white glove review, checking that we've eliminated any unnecessary errors or omissions. Everything's either in the physical box or it's ready for upload and we're ready to submit. So you can see a month, just like this month, can pass pretty quickly once the documents have come out. Okay, back to our review cycle. So the documents are out. We're preparing our response templates and answer plans. Remember, those response templates had the questions at the top, guidance notes from the invitation documents, and any nuggets from the answer planning sessions that we've held with our content experts. So before we set everybody off on writing, we want to absolutely be sure that we've got them on the right track. So it's good to have a quick review meeting of the answer plans themselves, of these response templates. So we'll need some content specialists, business development people who know the customer, and our bid manager to oversee things. Now, if we've got 3 separate roles in the business to cover this, that's great. It might be just a couple of people if we're an SME. But together, they need to be checking that the answer planning reflects the customer's requirements and our win themes, those things that we're going to say in our bid that differentiate us from the competition and persuade the client to pick us. We want them embedded in our response templates. So in this review, we want to be asking ourselves, are our content plans compliant with the rules and requirements of the bid? So we go back to our bid requirements summary to check off that. Is space allocated so that our key messages come through? Have we organized it so the sections will be easy to evaluate? Have we thought about our initial ideas for any graphics in there? Does the content plan capture them? Are all the customer requirements accounted for? Have we put our benefits and evidence in there into the plan as well as the needs and the action? Have we got headings and a bit of white space on the page so that it's easy to read and work with our bid? You'll also notice at this stage, which is probably the middle of week 2, that there's a little green box for a pricing review. Even before we're deep into the writing, we should at some point have had a bit of a review to have a reasonable idea of our bid price or the amount of funding that we're going to apply for. We do need to know this before we press on and engage a lot of resources in the business to write the answers, because we need to know that we can afford to win, or if we're too expensive, you know, whether we should be competing or not. Again, this is another opportunity to step back and say, okay, this one isn't for us, it's a no bid. And on content review. Well, this, to me, this is the one that we all think about when we talk about reviewing a bid or a funding application. It's the one where everybody gets their red pens out and starts getting into the editing and reviewing side of things and gets hold of the text. But you can see, again, there's a lot of reviewing that happened before we even got there, and we're hoping by doing that, the content that we've got is definitely on the right track. Now, what I'd say with content reviews is that it's multi-layered. You can't just give it to one person and say, oh, could you review this? And then we'll send it out the door. I'd suggest that at one level, the first level is a strategic review of the content, the first drafts or second drafts that you produced. We need somebody who understands whether the proposal effectively presents the offer, whether it's persuasive, whether it's selling us in our best light. I'd suggest that we need a senior business development person or another client-facing director who knows what the issues are here. They don't want to get a red pen out and start doing a line edit. They want to see whether this thing is working as a commercial offer. Are the benefits specific? Are they measurable in terms of savings in time or money or better client outcomes or other things that the client cares about, like safety or their enhanced reputation? So yeah, a senior business development person or a senior director will do one level of review here. And I'd suggest, we saw this, I think, in session 1. Strategic reviewers might want to go beyond a line-by-line text markup and provide some helicopter-style input to improve the draft early on. So here's an example of a standard feedback form that we would embed at the bottom of a response template. So it was there every time the writer or reviewers were working with the text. We've given them some headings here on structure or clarity, strengths, improvement suggestions, missing elements, and on this one we'd said, well, keep an eye on the word count because they were writing a bit long. Reviewing like this provides an objective set of helpful comments rather than just focusing on the grammar and the commas and the dots, etc. It's much better than just a vague or subjective verbal conversation for guiding the writer on the second draft. So that's one form of response review. Here, let me show you another one here. It's a bit difficult to read this one, unfortunately, on the screen, but hopefully if you go in close, you'll be able to see that there's some different headings down the side there. This content review was embedded to give both a strategic view, but also a little bit of the line by line together as well. So we want to check if it's compliant. Have we actually answered the thing properly according to the rules? Is it concise, because there was a word count on there? Is it complete? Are all the elements in there? Is it consistent? Have we used the same terminology throughout and referred to ourselves in the same way? Here's the strategic bit. Is it client focused? And again, subjective, is it a compelling read? Is it doing all those things that we talked about last week about one idea, one sentence, and cutting the waffle to create a good answer that's a good, strong read with guided headings so the evaluator likes reading it. You'll notice also we've got some red, amber, green going on, which is a quick check about which things need the most attention. So there, it's obviously gone a bit long because under concise, we've got a red there, and the comments will explain where. Whereas on client focused, it sounds like it's going to be a good answer, this one. We've got a green there from our senior reviewer. And the other technique at this stage of review that we talked about, I think in the first one, was shadow marking. So here, we've invited an independent external reviewer to shadow mark our bid about halfway through the bid process. So we've got a full set of drafts. And we've set up an Excel spreadsheet that takes the raw score and the weighting of each score. We'll find that in the bid documents to determine roughly what we would score in their opinion if we submitted this now. And you'll see that red, amber, green is in operation again. So those that are light green or dark green are in pretty good shape at this stage. The ones that are yellow are looking a bit ordinary and can do with some input. And the ones that are red are scoring too low and they need more, seriously more attention and help. So if you combine the narrative review that we just saw before, along with shadow marking, then you've got some great feedback for the person who wrote this to go on and address the shortcomings in their answers and push those scores up. You'll see here on the right-hand side, the pass mark was 80 for each question. So where we're on or around the pass mark, we're going to say, well, that's okay, but it's a bit subjective, so we could do a little bit more. And where we're over the pass mark, obviously that's gone green there, 85. So shadow marking gives you a quick way of targeting weaknesses and fixing them. I'm sorry, but there's more reviews to come. There's another level of review here at content review, which is the commercial review. We do need to have a look at price again and the contract that you'll have to sign. We want to know if the price is clearly stated and if it's justified and credible. And obviously, we need some kind of indication as to whether it's going to be competitive. Once again, we need to decide if we can afford to win the work at the price that we're going to bid at. And similarly, can we afford to sign the contract? So we need to be looking through to check there's not any hidden or not so hidden penalty clauses or payment by performance terms that we're unhappy about. This is board level or commercial director stuff, but you also might want an estimating manager or similar, or at least somebody who knows the absolute detail of pricing in your business and how to use Excel. The important thing is that the price in the pricing section matches what you've said you'll do in the tender responses. So a commercial review isn't just looking at the numbers, it's actually having a look at a bit of the text as well to make sure everything matches up. Because you're going to be in a shock, in for a shock, if you forget to price something that you promised to do in the text of your bid, particularly if it's a long-term contract, because that's going to tie you in to costs that you haven't budgeted for. So commercial review, look at the numbers, look at the text as well, make sure they match up. Right, now we review the content accuracy and clarity. And this is the review everyone thinks about when we talk about bidding and funding. Even this one's got a few layers. Think of it as a bit like a traditional publishing house setup. So in a publishing house, you'd have a managing director who commissions the writing and has got the overall vision for how things should look. And when I was in publishing on a Friday, they'd kind of sign off and go to the pub, but the real editorial team then gets to work. So you need a copy editor to check and refine the work and make sure it's fit to publish and to make sure it fits in the space available in the newspaper or magazine. Just like editing to fit to meet the word counts and page limits in a funding or bid application. In bid terms, you need somebody in that copy editor role who can check if the facts are correct, if the data and the evidence is accurate. Are our claims believable when we're saying things about ourselves? Have we put some evidence behind there to show that we're actually making credible claims? And then is the writing, as we looked at last week, is it clear? Is it to the point? I mean, quite simply, do all of the sentences make sense the first time you read them? Or any statements vague or confusing or misleading? What can we do about that? And is the writing concise? Have we cut the waffle? We've taken out the words or jargon or sentences that we don't really need. And do the visuals work as well? Are the visuals, graphics or anything like that with captions, are they supporting what we're trying to say? So that's the copy editor role for accuracy and clarity. If you recall from our first one, if you're given the job of reviewing in this copy editor role, you do need to make some time and space to do it properly. You're not going to be able to do it in a corridor or on the train or in front of the TV. You need a few things in front of you as well. You'll need the invitation documents, you'll need the evaluation criteria, and you'll need the response itself and all the notes that go with it. So decide up front when you do that 30-day program when the reviewing is going to happen and who's going to do it, so that people have allocated the right amount of time when the time comes. And if you're part of the content writing team, then make sure you hit your deadlines, because everybody's time is precious. Anyhow, don't just skim read it. Do your colleague the favor of reading the questions and the guidance documents so you understand the context. You remember also we talked about reviewing and copy editing in this idiom as well. We don't want to be scribbling on bits of paper here and putting unhelpful nitpicking or confrontational comments. If you know better, then use the review and comment tools in Word to suggest alternative wording or structures. I'm hoping we've all seen in our text editing packages, whether it's Microsoft Office or Google Docs, something like this. Track changes. So we can switch on and switch off the changes that we make. So we have an audit trail of everything that's happened in review. So what I'm going to do now is show you a little bit more about how track changes works. by opening a document I recently worked on, which was about measuring the social value impact of cooperation between councils that are working together. Just bear with me a tick while I pull that one up. I'm hoping that you can now see a Word document on your screen with a question at the top and a bit of text below. Now this is the raw text for review and copy editing that was received. I'll give you a little moment just to digest the question. So if I'm in the copy editor role here, the first thing I want to do is go up to my toolbar at the top. And can we see this here, track changes? I want to click that to make sure the track changes is on. And while I'm working as an editor, I want to be in simple markup. I'll tell you why. If I put it on all markup, which isn't simple markup, and if I change something, then it'll show the change in line with the text, as well as a little marker in the margin. And as you progress, it becomes a little bit difficult to see your way through to actually how the sentences are structured because you've got all this interference. Whereas, if you work with simple markup, then it will track the fact that you've changed something, but it won't create all that red confusion in the middle of the page. So, switch track changes on, work in simple markup. So for this one, first of all, I want to dive in and tackle this mega sentence here. Look at that one. So there's a lot going on in that first sentence. If you remember our idea of one sentence from last week, then I probably want to just say what was the primary idea here. Our consortium has experience of designing, operating outcome-based measures for partnerships. And there's another idea here, I think, coming up, social investment metrics. We do something different depending on the nature of projects concerned and the interests of commissioning organisations. All right, so there's two ideas there. Let's have a look and see what we might do with that. So, this first sentence I want to edit in nice plain English. Our consortium designs and operates outcome-based measures for partnerships. Nice and simple. And the second idea here, well, it looks like we're tailoring these social investment metrics and measurements depending on the type of projects we're working on and the commissioning organisation we're working with. So let's just simply say that. So, there we go. And you'll see then if I just toggle back to all markup, you can see the new text I put in and the old text that I deleted. So we've got an audit trail. You notice also here social values, the theme of this answer, but we can save a little bit of space by putting the abbreviation in SV after our first mention, so we can save a couple of words each time. This next sentence doesn't look too bad actually. However, we've found such measures to be of limited use in demonstrating value creation outside the target service or project being measured. Now, I'm an editor, so we always change something, and I don't like this project being measured. We don't like the use of these, what we call gerunds. So we're going to dive in and have a quick look at that one. However, in our experience, so we're showing we've got some track record, these measures are of limited use in demonstrating value creation outside the target service or project under consideration. Just a personal preference, it seems a bit more elegant. But this final one here needs a bit of work as well. There's an opportunity to innovate and design more appropriate impact measures that take account of embedded approaches such as community wealth building, that support a wider range of business models, go beyond social value metrics, and address the fundamental added value of cooperative models. A big, indigestible sentence that needs to be broken down again. So let's have a go at that. Where we say there's an opportunity to innovate and design more appropriate, blah, 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 I hope we're saying, well, we're going to seize that opportunity and this is what we're going to do. So let's set the sentence up like that by telling them actively what we're going to do rather than passively, there is an opportunity to. Our client, by the way, is CCIN. You'll just see that pop up in a second. So there is an opportunity to, is actually, we'll change that to, so for CCIN, we will design more responsive impact measures. That. Now, I think there's three things going on here. So these more responsive measures take account of community wealth building, support a wider range of business models, and go beyond SV metrics to address the added value inherent in cooperative models. Editing's subjective, but for me, that was fewer words and a lot more easy to digest than the mega sentences we had in there before. And with my track changes, if the person who wrote it originally wants to review and doesn't like it, then at least they know where to go to find out what their original text looked like. So, nearly forgot, one final thing. The other mega bits in this are these huge headings. Headings are great because they'll tell people what to think when they're reading it. I want to go back and have a look at these headings. They're good because they're picking up the keywords in the question, but they're a bit long, and I think we're missing one here. So I'm going to go back and see what I can do with those headings. So the first one, there, evaluating the impact of cooperative approaches. Just explains where we are in the response. And the second one, we measure value creation beyond the immediate service or project scope, is an action heading. And the idea of an action heading is it's telling the evaluator what the benefit is or what the evidence is in the text that's following, so they know why they're reading it and what's good about our solution. Similarly, here there's an opportunity to put another one in there to describe the 3 points we're making here. But in short, if you toggle your track changes on and off like that, you can see what's going on, and you've got an audit trail for the next person who's reviewing it or for the person who wrote it. So please use this. It's a lot better than hand markups or just general comments. Okay, let's go back to our PowerPoint show. Great. So you can imagine things get messy in that first copy editing review. You'll need a proofreader, somebody who can absolutely check the accuracy of what remains. It may be the same person who's done the first job, but there are different parts of your brain at work between copy editing and proofreading, and you can get too close to the content, I think, to see obvious errors. But what a proofreader does is checks for typographical mistakes, spelling mistakes, etc., commas in the wrong place, tiny noticeable errors, anything that will diminish the sense of quality about your work. Importantly, the proofreader might be one of the few people who sees the whole thing. So they're in a good place to check that all the parts of your proposal are using consistent tone and language and appearance, particularly if it's a team of people working on it. It's good to agree a style guide for things like capitalization and punctuation and certain words that you will use at the outset, as this is going to help with the proofreading. The acid test is this, of proofreading. Does the whole proposal seem as if one person wrote it? If it does, then you're looking pretty good. And if you find a generally good proofreader in your business, somebody who can close their mind down to a lot of the content and just look for those tiny noticeable errors, then do keep hold of them, because it's a real skill to do that, to just focus on that one thing of accuracy. And it does require a long attention span, which is a rare quality these days. All right, let's have a quick reminder about where we're up to in our review cycle. We've done content and we've done the commercial review. So I think we might be up to a sign-off. Now, document sign-offs are generally kind of director level or commercial director affairs. And if you've got all those preceding review stages right, and you've involved them a little bit in each one, then hopefully getting sign-off from them should be reasonably painless, because you've been checking the quality and direction of your bid or funding application all along. And you checked your answer plans, and you sent them out to your contributors, and you reviewed the content itself. You had a copy editor and proofreader. So what should end up really for sign-off is in very, very good shape. Look, it doesn't always work like that. Some of you may have had bad experiences as well about getting sign-off at the end, where everything gets torn up and changed. The reason that would happen is because of that lack of senior involvement through the process before. You need to avoid having a lot of directors in a room pulling your work apart because they don't really understand how it was conceived, or because they haven't been involved in the development process. You could end up with a very expensive room full of amateur proofreaders making a real mess of your bid or funding application. So my advice there is really choose the right directors to be involved at the outset, right back there at that opportunity and competitor analysis stage, and then get them to follow through and track what's going on all the way through. Keep them in the loop, and you'll save yourself a lot of heartache when it comes to sign-off time. Right, so it's been reviewed, we've checked the content, we've proofread, we've got a directorial sign-off. Now it's time to get it out the door. We still need to be checking the appearance and the packaging of our bid. This white glove review that we talked about. You'll need to, if it's a paper bid, you'll need somebody who understands page layout and design and packaging, which I'm hoping you'll have agreed in advance. These are things like making sure that if you look at these folders here, if you put physical dividers in there, they're all in the right place, that there's no errors or mistakes in the pagination, those kind of things. And the people who can do this tend to understand packages like InDesign, desktop publishing, or Word, and they'll be checking that everything's got a clean, professional appearance, so your bid's readable. And if it's an on-screen bid, they'll be doing the same thing, really, making sure that everything's been filed with an identifiable file name, so that when it's uploaded, it's easy to navigate your bid. And individual documents have electronic bookmarks, you've probably seen these, and divider pages, so evaluators can find their way around your bid, even if they're just working on screen. You want to get the branding right, you'll make sure it's actually put in the right kind of box according to the rules. And of course, the white glove review is your last chance, really, to check that everything's in the box or in the upload, to check whether you're complete and compliant. It's worth allocating a little bit of time to make sure this happens. There's nothing worse than getting a clarification question back from the buying organization saying, oh, we've got your bid, but you've forgotten to put the pricing section in, because they could just discount you from the competition on that basis. So here we go, then we submit. As I said to you in the first one, in the old days, it used to be things like this, reels of tape and boxes. Nowadays, most bids are uploaded to portals. I thought I'd just take a bit of an aside to show you an example of an upload portal. Delta is used by a lot of local authority organizations. It's a bit like Proactis and Intend and some of the other ones that we looked at in our second session. So generally, you'll be faced with a login. That's our login for Delta. There'll be a home page which allows you to effectively manage your account. You can set up a profile about your business. You can sign up to services where you can record, if you like, your selection questionnaire, so you don't have to keep typing it in each time. They've got it on file. But for the purposes of our bid, we want to go to Response Manager and then view our response ready for upload. So we'll go to Response Manager. We'll see a window like this with all the bids that we're involved in at the moment through Delta. And as you can see here, we've got a couple for our local area, which is in the Midlands, and one for a university there as well. And then you'll get into the upload portal for an individual bid. Stage one will always show you the invitation documents themselves. Stage 2 gives you an opportunity to look at your response as you're uploading it, and you'll see the various sections of the response are down the right-hand side there. So in stage 2, we enter our individual responses onto the portal, including uploading any PDFs or extra bits and pieces they've asked for. And then in stage 3, you'll have a check that all the bits and pieces that they've asked for have been answered. You'll see on this one, we're only halfway through the process. So although we've got some ticks for some of the sections, there's some X's against the others, and we need to go and find our material and upload that as well. Once you've got a full set of ticks on the portal, you'll be invited to press the button and submit your response, which always feels a bit tense, but don't worry, most of these public sector portals give you the opportunity to withdraw your bid before the deadline if you've made a mistake or you've left something out, and resubmit again. And as long as you do that before the deadline, then you're okay. But again, white glove online is really important to make sure that you put all your components up, you check that you've got ticks in all the boxes, all your PDF attachments are in there as well before you press that button. And we always try and aim to do these things the day before the deadline, because the internet can let you down. There could be a lot of other bidders trying to upload at the same time. It still does these days cause a bit of a traffic jam. So if you can get in there a day early, it's a good thing. Okay, just as a little aside, because we did say we would talk about funding as well during these sessions. The good news is that on funding applications, it's generally a lot more straightforward. Quite a few funding organisations simply ask you to complete a form in Word and email it to a specific address, but others may have some kind of mini portal for it. Just as an example, here's one that we're looking at right now for PricewaterhouseCoopers are offering a charity fund to support Black and minority ethnic social enterprises. And this one closes, I think, at the end of the week. Now, on their portal, although you have to fill in your bid on the portal, they very handily provide you with a PDF version of all the questions. So hopefully you can see that PDF version now. So this looks exactly like the portal. So offline, before I actually submit, I can go and create my response templates or somewhere to capture all the answers that I want to put in. You see here, this is just some basic stuff about who are you, what's the name of your organization, what's your registered company number. I think if I go down to question 23, it gets a bit juicier. There we go, question 23, a maximum of 100 words tell us about your organization and how it supports its social purpose. And then there's 500 words on your mission. A little bit more about what you want the money for, I think, is coming up, any volunteering opportunities. So offline, away from the portal, you would go and write up what you want to say on those, and you edit it, proofread it, etc. And then you go into the portal itself, which looks like this, and paste your answers into the portal. And the portal will guide you through page by page. It will check that you've submitted answers for every item, and at the end there'll be a submit button. You submit and you're done. And usually you'll get a receipt, an electronic receipt that you submitted. So that is, let me just do a new share. Give me a tick. There we go. So that's funding applications online and portals for uploading your bid responses. Good. So the bid's been submitted. We've gone through all the way through our process. Everyone goes home, forgets about the whole thing, and we all pop down the pub. No, we've got to hold on because we've got to do a lessons learned review. In fact, we've got to do 2 lessons learned reviews. One internally, as soon as you can really after you submit. I know it might be a little bit raw, but the experience will be fresh in everybody's mind. And we need that fresh feedback, positive and negative, from the bid team, so we can improve the process right from choosing the opportunity at the beginning through to preparing the response templates, editing and getting it out the door. There's some specific questions in this review we need to be asking ourselves, particularly if we're new to bidding. Then we want to know how effective are our processes for doing this. Should we have made a no bid decision halfway through? How well did we work together? Did we get the right support from our senior managers at the right time? I think we need to step back if we can and say, well, now it's gone in. It's funny what you see after the thing's been submitted. How do we actually rate our proposal for compliance and responsiveness to the client's needs, or the clarity of the whole thing? Did we have sufficient resources and time and cash to do the best job we could on the application, or would we need more next time? Key question, did we manage to do all the reviews that we talked about? And did we do them well, or did we run out of time, and we didn't manage to cover them all off? How well did the review process contribute to the, how well did it improve the final bid? These are the kind of questions you want to be asking internally and get all that out of your system. Somebody needs to capture the notes and make sure it feeds into what's going to happen next time round. And there's an external review that's required as well. Think of the external review as a bit of a customer-focused lessons learned session. At some point, the customer is going to come back and say, well, you've either won or you haven't won. Now, first off, always go to any client debriefing that they offer, because you'll get the best view of exactly why you scored what you did and how to do better next time. And if they don't offer you that debriefing, then ask for one. I think it will be appreciated, the fact that you did ask, and ask for one whether you win or whether you lose, because the reasons why you won might be quite different from the reasons that you think you won, and you need to capture that for next time as well. We always tell our clients to prepare for their customer debriefings or the feedback session as if it was another presentation or a sales opportunity, because really it is. You need to acknowledge and record the feedback they give you. You need to sit there and accept any of the negatives that are coming in without being defensive. But the key thing is document the feedback, the scores, and any verbal feedback you get, so the bid team and management can review it. You may, actually you usually do have a limit on the numbers you can send to these review things, although with Zoom, maybe things are changing now, I don't know. But if there is a limit on how many people can go to feedback, then send the bid manager and send a senior strategic director, maybe the person who did that strategic review as well. And always send a thank you note to the customer after the feedback's completed. What are we asking at that debriefing? Well, the basics. Did we understand your business? Did we understand your requirements? Did we get our strategy correct? Did our price match your expectations? You should be able to see that from the evaluation scores, but let's see how far out you were, or were you bang on? Did we understand exactly what you wanted to do? Were we differentiated from the competition sufficiently? You can find out all these things from the debriefing and feed back into your next bid. So that's the end of the bid journey, really. Over 4 weeks, which has been fantastic for us, we really enjoyed doing it. We've gone all the way around the wheel, from sourcing the opportunities in the first place and getting bid ready, thinking about our competitive strategy in our markets, and then moving on to preparing to bid and doing the things that we need to do for the tender lands. We've looked at obviously content review and editing. Today we've looked at reviewing the bid and what to do after it's gone out the door. I sincerely hope this hasn't frightened you off bidding or making funding applications. It's rare that you'll get the first one right, but it's really worth going through the motions to get things like the selection questionnaire and just generally getting sight of the questions you'll be asked, because you do get better very, very quickly after you go through a few bid cycles. So look, I think we've been capturing a few questions as we've been going along again. Perhaps Marjorie, you can let us know if there's any that we should pick out.
Yes, thanks, Richard. We've had one question that came through from Cav. So Cav, can you just unmute and ask your question out there to the group? I have replied, but Richard might have another point of view to respond to it as well.
No, thanks for that, Marjorie. Thanks, Richard, as well. I think the question that I had, I think I had two. The first one was, what was the first one? Oh,
opportunities.
Mentioned that there was various opportunities and various different platforms. is any one platform better than the others, or does the same opportunity appear across multiple platforms?
Yeah, in session 2, we had a look at this. The opportunity will appear across multiple platforms. So we have these aggregator sites. If you remember, things like OpenOps will generally have all the government ones for various countries as well. You've got Contracts Finder. It's really down to your search preference. There are also some paid sites as well, if you recall, B2B. I would stick with Contracts Finder and OpenOps for now. Contracts Finder, you'll find the government ones. OpenOps should have a wider range of bits and pieces. But there's a difference between the portals that you'll go on to find opportunities and the ones that you'll go on to submit. Unfortunately, there's almost two separate things. You've got to drill down through the search portals to find the delta or the proactive or intend site that the individual buyer is using. But yeah, we'll put some links back in again, Marjorie, shall we, for OpenOps,
Yes,
Contracts Finder,
yes.
etc. And I like OpenOps. It gives you a pretty good broad search, and it pops up things there. In the session 2 video, sorry to a long answer this, session 2 video actually talks in more detail about how you use these portals to find what you want.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Good, thanks, Kevin.
Okay, so that was the only question, but by show of hands or wave at me, does anyone have any questions or comments? Oh, Cav again, here we go.
Sorry, guys, I like to ask lots of
Okay.
questions. I know it sounds really stupid, and I know what the answer is going to be, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Is there like an inside track in terms of like personality? So the person at the vendor, they say, do you know what? I like that person over that person, so we're going to stick with that person. Like, do they display bias towards particular providers? Like, if I bought them lunch, for example, would I get the contract?
We're being recorded. Okay. No, well, the answer to that, the legitimate answer to that is that, as you know, as we all know, people buy from people. And if you've built some degree of contact legitimately through the bid process, then people are minded to just engage with you and do more with you. Now, I think we said again in the earlier sessions, you can do that just by making contact before the bid documents come out, when you've got early sight of the opportunity. Just to put yourself on the map, I think a phone call or an email to the procurement people to say, we're thinking of going for this one. This is our business. This is what we do. Do you think we're well aligned with your requirements, etc.? Just to start that conversation, then that's not a bad thing. Once you get into proper bid mode, then communications are a bit more formal through the clarification process. I think the days of buying lunches and all that kind of stuff probably gone in proper competitive procurement, but you can certainly make contact. The other way of doing it, of course, is go to, often on bigger opportunities, go to the bidders day. They'll do a seminar just like this, where they introduce what the bid's all about because they want to get the best bids they can. Again, ask some more questions at that to put yourself on the map, make your presence known at those kind of things. That's the way to build the relationship with a buying organization.
Excellent, thank you.
Or buy them lunch, if you can find them.
Right, I think that is all we have. Barbara, could you close out for us, please?
Yeah, no problem at
Thank
all.
you.
There is one more, but I would suggest that that's from Gifty. That's a separate conversation, and I'm thinking you'd have probably contacted her about that. And I have to say, Gifty isn't the only one, not in this session, but in other sessions that have come back and asked about working with you. And of course, you know, that's what you're there for. That's what you do. So I do want to encourage anybody that's been on the calls on these workshops that if you do want some support and some help, then please feel free. That's why the contact details are there for you. So please feel free to contact Richard and or Marjorie.
Perfect, thank you.
So much. I think it has been an amazing 4 weeks. And I've mentioned to you before that the kind of feedback that I've been getting and how helpful it has been, everybody's really appreciated it. So I just want to say thank you to you both. In terms of what's happening next for you that have been attending, you will receive links to the 4 recordings. That won't be until probably next week now. But also we want you to give us some feedback about whether or not, you know, what you got from this, what was good about it, what we could learn, because we are thinking about the potential for running these sessions again. So any feedback that you have would be very helpful for that, but we'll contact you next week to ask you those questions. And apart from that, you know, I keep repeating myself and just saying thank you all very much. And thank you to Richard and Marjorie as well. And we will see you guys next week at the Tuesday meeting.
Thanks again, everybody, for coming.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Take care, everyone.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.